On their arrival, Topola, Tetu, and Yan had been shown into the library, where a small stage had been erected with a makeshift curtain. The only light in the room came from the fire and the candles on the mantelpiece. When the candles blazed up, you could see that this was a large, semicircular room, lined from floor to ceiling with bookshelves and divided halfway down by a wooden walkway. At each end was a spiral staircase. It was hard to fathom where the ceiling began or ended. The books looked as though they might go on to eternity. Topola was not in a good mood. He had stumbled badly as he got out of the coach, making a fool of himself in front of the footman. He stood near the fire, doing his best to get some warmth back into his frozen limbs. Only Yan was alert and excited enough to explore. He moved away from the fire into the dark recesses of the library. He'd never seen so many books. He took one out of the shelf. It was brand new, some of its pages still uncut. He put it back and took out another, smiling to himself. Whoever owned the chateau used this room more to impress than for the knowledge it held. For all its grandeur, there was something uncomfortable about the place, as if the foundations were having an argument with the earth. A bad omen, he thought, for tonight's show. The large double doors at the end of the room opened and Yan turned to see a tall man enter the library. He was dressed in black, his hair powdered white, and he walked with an assured step, the red heels of his shiny buckled shoes clicking loudly on the parquet floor. A black wolfhound followed him. He was holding something Yan couldn't quite make out. Now in the firelight he saw clearly what it was. A human skull carved in wood. The sight of it made Yan move further back into the darkness of the bookshelves. There was something sinister about this man. Count Kaliowski ignored Topola and Tetu, and he hadn't seen the boy. He put the wooden skull on the table, opening it up to reveal a magnificent timepiece. On its face was the image of the Grim Reaper. Topola rushed forward, accidentally tripping and making a nonsense of his low bow. "It is an honor, Count Kaliowski, to be called to your splendid residence. May I congratulate you on your fine taste." "This is not my residence. It belongs to the Marquis de Villeduval. Let us hope your magic shows more skill than your words do." Topola was still not fully awake. How could he have forgotten what he had already been told? He attempted some more toe-curling flattery, making matters worse. Balthazar snarled, a low, menacing rumble of a sound like the coming of thunder. Topola took a step backwards. He was terrified of dogs. Tetu had a sense of rising panic. His mind whirled as he tried to remember exactly where and when it was he had last seen this man. It was the sight of the Count's hands that finally loosened Tetu's memory. For all Kaliowski's airs and graces, he still had the hands of a butcher, the hands of a murderer. How could Tetu ever forget them? Here before him was a ghost from his past, the enemy he had hoped never to see again. All he could hope for now was that Topola would, for once, keep his mouth shut. Yan had never been able to read Tetu's mind, but that didn't stop him from realizing that something was wrong with the dwarf. And it wasn't just his usual tiredness after the show. It was something altogether more worrying. "I called you here tonight because I was impressed by your performance at the theatre," said the Count. "I, too, have a great interest in automata." Topola smiled feebly. He was only half listening. He was positive he'd met this man before, though where he couldn't remember. Without thinking, he inquired, "Forgive me for asking, but I never forget a face, He stopped, realizing too late when and where he had last seen the Count. Under his blotched white makeup, all the colour drained from his face. The Count smiled inwardly, turned on his red heels and left the room. Tetu and Topola listened to his footsteps retreat into the distance. They were well and truly trapped.
"What have I done?"
said Topola. Jan could suddenly feel his fear.
"Quiet!"
Tetu grunted.
"The boy is here. You'd better leave the pistol out of the show."
Topola poured himself a generous glass of cognac from a decanter, his hands shaking, and drained it in one gulp. "No pistol. I think that's wise. But we're dead, aren't we?" The memory of the voice early that evening began to haunt Jan again. There must, he thought, be a way to escape. Above him on the wooden walkway came the sound of footsteps. A footman appeared as if from nowhere and started to walk down the spiral staircase with a dish of sweetmeats. He left the dish beside the decanters on the table before returning the way he had come, through an invisible door in the bookshelves. Jan, cat-like, went up the stairs after him and caught hold of the door before it fully closed.
"See if you can find a way out of here. I'll keep the door open. Go!"
Jan found himself standing in a dark, musty-smelling passageway. Up ahead he could see the flicker of candlelight as the footman disappeared down the rabbit warren of corridors. It reminded him of walking between the painted flats in a theatre. But why did the chateau have this hidden labyrinth of corridors? What illusion was it hoping to create?